Let me tell you the time that I got caught between 3 deer and the panther that was chasing them. I was about 15 years old. This would be about 1994. And we had permission to hunt this big old cutover. It was about 5-year-old cutover. It was real thick, real high. But it had a strip of hardwoods along the stream that went all the way through it. And on the far end, there was a bigger creek that it run off into. And I wanted to get down there and find a spot to put a deer stand. And so I come to this cutover, and I park, and I get out, and I remember I had a .22 long rifle with me. It was one of those that you loaded along the barrel, held 15 rounds. I only had 12, and I put them all in there and put the little plunger back on there and secured it. And I made my way to the strip of hardwoods, and the hardwoods, they were a little bit thick, but they were passable. You could see about 5-10 yards wherever you're looking. And I made it through those trees about 300-400 yards, and I come up on the skidder road that went from one cut over to the other, through this strip of hardwoods. And I stopped right there, and I was listening, and I heard some deer running, and they were running at me. And so that got my attention, and I was sitting there listening and looking, and all of a sudden those 3 deer come right to my left within 5 yards. I could almost just reach out and touch them. They just pass right by me, and I don't know if I seen something out of the corner of my eye, or if I heard something or what, but I looked back to my right, and I saw something that scared me to death. It was no mistaking it. I could see from the tip of his nose all the way to the tip of his swooping tail behind him as a panther just standing there in this road 10 yards from me. And I'm looking at it, and it's looking at me, and I don't know what to do, and I don't know what it's gonna do, and I'm scared to death. But one thing I did know is I knew that cat could jump that 10 yards and be on me within a second. Also know that he had some big claws and some big teeth, that he takes down deer on a regular basis. So with that in my mind, I did what any good old country boy 15 years old would do at that time. And I gave this cat an ample amount of time to leave, a solid 3 seconds, maybe more, maybe less. But I raised that rifle, and when I did, it was like time just slowed down and everything went silent. And I raised that rifle, and I counted every time I pulled the trigger. 1. And when I was counting in my head, and when I pulled that trigger the first time, that cat he was standing there like squatted, and he come up on his haunches and like in a seated position, and was swatting the air like he was fighting a swarm of bees. And by the time I counted 3, he started rolling towards the stream in my direction. And by the time I got to 6, he had done rolled up on this pine sapling. His back was to me, and he come back up on his haunches again, still swatting at that swarm of bees. And when 7, 8, and 9 stung him in the back, he was gone. Just like that. Just one leap, and he was out of there. And I was sitting there shaking, and my heart was telling me, hey, I just shot an animal, I need to go get it. And then my head was like, hey, you idiot, that cat just took 9 rounds, and he left like nobody's business. He looked like he was in perfectly good shape when he left. So I head back to my truck, and because the last 3 rounds ain't gonna do much good if the other 9 didn't. So I get to my truck, I go back home, I tell my dad this story, and tell my brothers this story. I might have told a few friends through the years, but I mean, people that know you're not lying still have a very hard time believing you when you tell panther stories. Yep. So why am I telling you this story? Because that story is as true as your mother's love. I mean, that story is true. And my dad has a story. He's seen one while he was deer hunting, come up in the middle of a dummy line and just sat down, and he was looking at it through a scope. Stood there about a minute or so. My uncle has a story. He was deer hunting with a muzzle loader. Come across a creek, run straight up the bank, sat on top of the bank, sat there and watched it. My mom and my aunt, they seen one running through a cow field one day across the road. And I don't know if it's my great or my great uncle killed one like back in the late 60s or something like that. Is messing with his cows. He put it on the tailgate of his truck and had a picture taken with it. I've never seen this picture, but I'm gonna look for it, and I'm gonna try to find it, get that story, and might even have it on this YouTube channel one day. But that's 5 stories in my family, like close family. And if I have 5 stories that close to me, there has to be hundreds and thousands of them throughout Mississippi and Louisiana and Alabama and Arkansas, this area that are not supposed to have big cats. But there has to be hundreds of stories out there, and they're going to be lost with time. I would love to hear them. I've made a email address, mypantherstory@gmail.com. If you want your story told, email me, and you can tell your story. Or if you don't want to, I can tell your story. If you want to be anonymous, I'll tell it as an I'll tell your story. Or I can interview you. We can do this a bunch of different ways. But what I'm saying is there's stories out there. You have stories. Your family history may have a story that you would like to share. But this is going to be a place that you can share your panther stories. People want to hear your stories. If you want to tell your stories, email me. I'll contact you, and we'll get them out there. People want to hear them. Thanks for watching Mason Boys Outdoors, and we'll see you on the next one.